Hello and welcome to Open Boosters. How y'all doing today? Today is a special day because we're on Open Boosters. I figured that many of you have not clicked over to watch Unhinged Magi. So what I'm going to do is let you guys watch an Unhinged Magi video right here on Open Boosters. Oh man, get ready to crack out the shrooms. All right. So in 3, 2, 1... Welcome to Unhinged Magi! All right, we're here. We like to talk about Magic the Gathering, and I know many of you like to talk about Magic the Gathering. I know many of you like to watch boxes of Magic the Gathering open, and I know many of you, or some of you, like to watch My Little Pony in the dark in the closet with a box of tissues. But we're not talking about that today.
We are talking about a big topic, honestly. We're talking about how old school has been rekindled by a smaller group of Swedish players and Eternal Central players, and it's grown and morphed over the years into something else. And now some of those people that were the original people that began
the OGs,
started. I'm not going to say they invented this format because the Wizards of the Coast invented the format, but the original people that started playing it again and modified the rules a little bit are basically getting priced out of the market.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
They're priced out of the market. How can that be?
Well, not all of them, some of them, but everybody has their price.
Everybody has their price.
Yeah, so it's an interesting discussion, and this discussion has been happening on message boards for a little while. But I think it's worth it to talk about it here because not everybody is probably aware of the discussion. And the people that are aware of it, well, if they're watching this video, they're going to get our viewpoint on it.
Yep, and they're going to go, hey, I already know about that. It'll be very exciting.
Yep. So I'll give a quick summary of what the essence of the topic is. So as you guys all know, of course, Wizards of the Coast made Magic way back in 1993.
They did?
And
I thought it was 2000.
So 93, 94, people were playing these cards. They were playing the decks that are the kinds of decks, but not exactly, because using the new 6th edition and later rules, where interrupts and stuff are removed, it changed. Yeah, it's not old school. It changed the format a little bit. So some cards have relatively gone up or down in power based on that. But for the most part,
up and down.
Yeah. But for the most part, the format is pretty similar to what was played a while ago. But then, some amount of time.
A while ago?
What's that?
Is that what you're saying? They were playing with themselves a long time ago?
Everybody probably to some extent. Who knows? I don't know. Anyways, so as of 10 years ago at some point, this started to get rekindled. The love of these old decks and this old format started to come back in, but it was revisited with slightly different rules, more modern rules, and some changes to some of the cards. And old school started to be played again, and they gave it a name, and they started organizing amongst themselves. And the first ones,
tribes, and then cities, and then states, and then countries.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know the exact timeline of who exactly started it on what date. I know that there's some names to call out and such. I know there's Jocko with Eternal Central, and I know there's Magnus with Swedish formats and stuff like that. But it's kind of ebbed and flowed around. But the big point is that people started to replay these old formats and these old decks and do it again. And the first people that were doing it were wanting to only use the old original print cards. And so the Swedish guys were the most kind of narrowed down, where they said only original print.
It's fun. It gives you the old nostalgic memories of long ago, playing when you were actually young. And I get that. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's great to play with the original artwork and the original frame and the black border madness.
Yeah, so the Swedish guys were the most restrictive, not even allowing revised, reprints to be allowed. But then the Eternal Central, when that was big, with a larger growing format, then the revised at least was allowed, and 4th edition reprints and such were allowed. So they had a slightly different focus on those two, and also Swedish didn't allow Fallen Empires. So they did have slightly different focus amongst themselves. But the point is they all narrowed into these old original cards, right? And that's an interesting topic because that's imagine if a bunch of people got together and said, we're going to race 1980s Lamborghinis around a track. And you have to have a 1980s Lamborghini, and you have to use original parts, but there's a limited supply. And so there's going to be a trajectory for something like that, because as these cars get raced, they get torn up, parts get consumed, and eventually the parts start going up in price because there's only so many. And you're consuming what's out there in the market.
Yummy, yummy.
So
eat those parts.
So if you make a format that's based on something that's a limited quantity and it becomes popular, then it's going to go a certain direction. And that's exactly what happened.
The only direction is up. To the moon, baby.
Yep. Because
so what happened? Why are they priced out? They still have the cards, right?
Because it is a fun format. The cards were good cards. And there's people all around the world that are nostalgic about those cards. And as more people started to hear about old school and started to come into that format, then the desire for these very rare cards, of course, just went up. And over time, there's even been like a shifting focus of what's been a desired card in terms of what's allowed. You know, eventually, like around 2017 or 18, I can't remember exactly when, Collector's Edition was deemed to be allowed in most of those formats. And I keep referring to them. Let me just quickly show you guys so everybody has a sense of what I'm actually talking about. So, okay, sorry, not that camera.
That's a great camera, though.
Yeah, that's a great camera. We want this camera. Okay, so so the Swedish, you see most of the Swedish under this website, and then the next ones that were coming up big was the Eternal Central, and then the next one I remember hearing about after that was Atlantic came up, and then eventually Pacific came into the set. And there's even more formats, but the original ones was the Swedish guys, and that's typically what you see. So all of those different versions of old school have their own adjustments on the rule sets and what they allow and they don't allow and what's banned and restricted and all that.
Let's get back to the price out. You said they're being priced out. How is Swedish being priced out?
Well, the original print cards, as more and more people are coming in, then there's a natural desire for those cards that goes up just based on people wanting to play them.
True.
But then also as those prices come up, that becomes attractive to collectors and speculators who also start coming in and buying these cards.
Oh yeah, because investment is always priceless, especially if it's going up.
And these cards have always been a collectible. They've always been something people could, like, to some extent invest in, and that was always...
Wait, a collectible card game being collectible? That's just...
I know, crazy, right? And so, like, all these things coming together, and, like, one thing kind of, like, begats the other, right?
So it became a perfect storm.
It did become a perfect storm. And so the prices of these things have gone up, and especially with, like, you know, jerks like you and me making videos about it, like, bringing more attention to it, that has brought even more people into it, which has also made these card prices going up.
Makes sense to me.
And,
Still not seeing the problem.
Well, what basically happens is everybody has their price point that makes sense. Like, if I was going to go out and buy a Ferrari right now, it would be a terrible decision for me because, like, a very awesome new Ferrari would be too much of my net worth.
However, it'd be great for me, so I say we go and give him the go-ahead to buy that Ferrari because then I can ride around in it and I don't have to pay for it. I won't have to pay for the insurance.
And by him, we mean
great idea. So let's go ahead and sign Edwin up for a contract for a Ferrari today. What do you think, Edwin?
I think I'm priced out of the Ferrari market. It would be too much of my net worth tied up into buying a depreciating asset.
Wait. Let's go to your asset collection. I think we can afford a Ferrari.
Oh, okay, so this is just Magic collection. Okay, so let's go back to that other screen. Okay, so this is...
There you go. Let's go buy that Ferrari.
My collection of cards is like... In fact, actually, I can do both here so people can see our crazy mugs as well. And I'm just going to make us shrink up and go into the corner here. Okay, so this is not my entire collection of cards. I have like 40,000 cards that I data track. I literally know my whole collection, but this is only like 2,200 of the cards.
And he's dumping this for a Ferrari.
And so this is like the online general net worth of the collection, but what's more important is this chart. In fact, I'm going to zoom into this chart. Okay, so looking at this chart, you can actually see right about the point where people were starting to get priced out of the market. The prices moved up at this point, but a lot of people didn't start really asking that question until, like, I think more recently I'm hearing a lot of people talk about it, which is more in this kind of range. And it's interesting because in my view, these collections have basically gone through like 3 phases of like something changed in the community that's playing it, which caused an expansion of the number of people playing.
So when they played with it, it got bigger.
Effectively. So it was first going on with like only like the Swedish people, only like the original cards. I believe they were the first ones, but then there was like the Eternal Central expansion that happened, which allowed 4th edition revised and others to come in, which opened it up a whole bunch for other people.
Foreplay to get it all open and what? Okay.
Yeah. And then collector's edition and international collector's edition came in, which effectively doubled the amount of like Power 9 which is out there, and that really opened it up a whole lot for more people to come in.
Cram it right on
in. And then what I think now is like the third phase that I don't know if I can pick an individual point and say this is when it happened, but there seems to be more people accepting proxies in their tournaments, in their daily play. That's more of an acceptable thing, and it's grown to the point where people that actually are anti-proxy, like they themselves don't want to use proxies, but even more specifically, they don't want you to use a proxy when you play against them. They're such a minority now that they're actually afraid to put that opinion out because they feel like they get dogpiled when they make a statement like that.
Oh, really? So
there's been some kind of paradigm shift there where that's basically what's happened. And guys, don't go dogpile people. I don't want anyone to actually get dogpiled. That's not cool. But there's people out there that's what they enjoyed about it, was the actual chase and the nostalgia of the cards. And so they're actually very frustrated that old school has effectively changed to the point where they can't really do that anymore.
They're frustrated because they can't get that climactic ending because we need a fourth stage.
What would the fourth stage be?
I have no idea.
So if you're to ask the question...
I'm pretty sure we can get there, people. We just got to rub it a little bit longer.
So if you're going to ask the question, have the prices peaked? I don't think so. And if you're going to ask the question, has the expansion of old school format peaked? I also don't think so. And because I don't think old school as a format has peaked in growth is exactly why I don't think the prices have peaked.
So if there's such few amount of cards as new players come in and they're allowed to use proxy and they start enjoying the actual gameplay, you're still speculating that they will eventually acquire enough money to make the purchases, to make the actual demand for the prices to go up.
Right. I do think that. And I don't think it's like the average Joe that's going to be able to come in and buy the old original cards, but the average Joe can come in and start scooping up the cards that are left. Like the revised regrowths and disenchants and lightning bolts and things like that have like eventually they'll start moving up, and those will be in their price range also. So it's the whales that come in and keep swallowing up all the really expensive cards.
All right. So with all the whales swallowing up the really expensive cards, let's just talk about the whales swallowing up cards, or I guess they're swallowing. Anyways, they come in, they swallow up all the cards. Is it only whales now that swallow up the big cards?
It's a good question, actually. At the price point that the cards are at right now, your average Joe buying, I would say, has dropped off quite a bit. Because it's a different thing entirely to have a Mox at $500 versus a Mox at $5,000.
Yeah, true.
It's a very different thing. And it's for the exact same reason why I can't go buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, because it's too much as a percentage of my net worth. And a car is a depreciating asset, and I can handle a $20,000 car going to zero. Based on my net worth, I can't handle a $300,000 car going to zero. It's too much of a loss compared to my net worth and my ability to gain money. And I think that becomes a very real thing when these cards start passing $5,000 for a Power 9 piece, right?
So the old school, you believe that it will still be a highly sought after format.
I think so.
And with the proxies, more people will want to play them.
Correct.
So they're being allowed to play. You believe that the whales will still keep swallowing it up.
I think so.
Eventually it will go to zero as product is out there.
Yeah, we could hit a point, as far as I can tell, where there might end up being more people playing with 4th edition kind of reprints and a few proxies here and there than there is people walking in with a real set of Power 9. If you come into an old school tournament and there's 100 people in the room and you sit down at a table and go, boom, real Power 9, everyone's like, oh my God, look at that. And, it's a weird thing to think about that in old school format. But, let me tell you, I spent years doing that in person in vintage tournaments. Because before I knew old people were jumping back into old school, I used to play a lot of Legacy and Vintage. And there was a lot of times when a local gaming store would have a vintage tournament, and vintage for them just meant any sets allowed, but nobody in that area had Power 9. And every once in a while, somebody with Power 9 would come in and play like a tier 1 vintage deck and just mop the floor with everybody. And like the whole reputation that people had for not wanting to play vintage because it's too broken, that didn't just come out of nowhere. That's why it happened. I got to experience being one of those people that would come in with like a real vintage deck and just mop the floor with people. And so that, like, I would sit down at a table and there would literally be a crowd of like 20, 30 people that would grow around me because they'd never seen those cards in person. It was like such an amazing thing. Like, and this is back when a Lotus was $1,000 and a Mox was $300 to $500, somewhere in that range. People had never seen these cards in person, and so they would crowd around the table just to see a real vintage deck being played. Old school might hit that, but it could be like proxies that are being played, like for most people, but just like they like the game pieces and they like the format.
Well, that totally makes sense. So, for Wizards of the Coast to support it, to actually have it as
they'll never support it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
So I was going to just touch base on that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So do you think the format will still be desired to play at tournament level, where it's actually still at like Channel Volleyball's tournaments for Magic the Gathering or Star City Game tournaments or whatever?
I personally think that's a yes, but I do think that there's a very different form of tournaments. Some tournaments will remain extremely competitive where people are playing very spiky decks trying to win. And I think there's also a very well-established community of old school players that just like variety and they don't care that much about winning. And I'll be honest with you guys, I enjoy that second group a lot more. The people that play just for fun and care less about winning. I enjoy the actual gameplay more in that group. Although I can be a competitive person and I like to go in and try to win.
He can be competitive. He's always competitive. Unless it's EDH. And then he throws in Chub Toad and stuff like that. Otherwise, all bets are off. He's coming for your throat.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing to look at this. This whole thing is a big picture. Who gets priced out? When do they get priced out? And what does that do to the overall community? And I'm telling you guys, it started in one way, like, 8 years ago when people were starting to revisit playing these old cards and they called it old school and it started to become big. And it has morphed into something else now. But I don't think it's going to die. It's just different.
Okay, so we're going with proxies, and proxies are going to be a thing. So, will there be a time where there's actually proxies that are actually extremely valuable? And who will make those proxies that are extremely valuable?
If anyone is ever able to make proxies that Wizards of the Coast does not attempt to sue or restrict in some way, then that would be the thing that I think opens that market up. Somebody would have to actually be able to make something that the community is happy and willing to use as a proxy, that's a high quality proxy, that's like limited in edition, that people would actually want, that it's traded in the secondary market. But that first piece would have to be there. Wizards would have to not be actively attacking those people. And they would have to have some kind of value and rarity to it, because once you start going proxy, anyone can do it to some extent.
Anyone can do it.
In fact, my most popular video in my entire original channel is a video where I show people how to make proxies.
Right, exactly. But you make good quality proxies. Print it off, piece of paper, boom.
Yeah, that are not counterfeits, by the way.
No, they're not counterfeits.
Yeah,
There's a difference between a counterfeit and a proxy.
Yeah, you can look right at it and tell it's not a real card, but like across the table, they look nice. Yeah.
All right, cool. I think that's a good video.
Yeah. Some people are being priced out of the market. There's lots of discussions going on. And everyone is really having to check why they're there. What do they enjoy about this format? What do they enjoy about these cards? And a lot of people had their heads in one space, which is this is what they liked about old school. And they're really having a hard time with that paradigm shift of it changing.
Right, because those cards are now really super expensive.
Yep.
And they seem to be only going through the roof.
And I just want to one last statement before we end this topic. The paradigm shift did not happen because of investors and collectors and stuff like that. The paradigm shift, I would say, is inevitable because you had a small group of people that decided to re-tap into something that already existed. There was passion around the world for these old cards and these old formats. A lot of people missed it and were nostalgic about it. And they lit that fire. And then as other people discovered it, that fire began to grow, not because of collectors and investors, but because people actually cared.
Yeah,
that desire was already there. So I would say the place we are today.
Fuse.
Yeah, I would say the place we're at today was inevitable, and they lit the fuse, is what I would say.
Well, good job for lighting the fuse and letting that spark burn and
Okay.
blowing it down.
So if you want to see more videos talking about subjects, this kind of layout, guys, go check out Unhinged Magi.
Yes, go check it out. You've had your example. Hopefully it was a good taste, and hopefully you'll go and subscribe and see many more of our videos.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.